My name's Monty. I got into aviation back in the early 90s. My mother passed away in the 80s. I could still tear up about it because I miss her so much. But she passed away, and I thought to myself, what am I waiting for? I want to learn to fly. What am I waiting for? Let's go get it done. And when I was a little kid, my stepmother was a flight attendant for United, and we were lucky enough that because of her being a flight attendant, we were able to go on the 747 to Hawaii a couple of times and be able to get on some airplanes. So when I was a little kid, I thought to myself, wow, this is just so cool. I want to be a pilot. But then I got, a little older, and when I was told, you wear glasses. Like, Monty, you can't become an airline pilot, you wear glasses. And at that time, that was correct. You really couldn't be an airline pilot back in the early 80s if you wore glasses, because there were so many military guys that were flying, and aviation hadn't boomed like it has now. So my mom would say, best time to go in the Army is during war, because they'll reduce the requirements because they need soldiers. So now that aviation's had a boom, right? They've relaxed on the vision requirements. So if you want to become an airline pilot, if you're a young man or a young lady and you want to be an airline pilot, first thing you should do, go out and find out if you can pass a Class 1 medical. Because if you can't pass a Class 1 medical, then you really can't be an airline pilot. But if that's what you want to do, I'm going to be the first one to say, make sure you don't just get advice, make sure you get great advice. Go to the right people, find out. Because yeah, I couldn't be an airline pilot in the early 80s when I was growing up. I actually graduated high school in '82. So for some of the viewers out there, they're going to go, oh my God, he's an old man. And trust me, when I look in the mirror, I see my dad, but I don't think it's me. Inside, everything's the same. It's only outside the stuff doesn't quite work as well as it used to. But I would definitely encourage you, go find out, if you want to do it, go get great advice. Go find out if you can pass Class 1 medical, because back in the 80s, I ended up getting into computers. My mom told me, you should get into computers, and I've been in computers, and my mom was right. But I wish I wouldn't have known that, hey, I could have became a commercial pilot and I could have been in the airlines if I would have gotten great advice that went, hey, the rules might change, go work for corporate, go work for somebody else. So if you want to get into aviation, right, go find out if you can pass a Class 1 medical. Go find out if you can pass a Class 2 or 3 medical, right? That might be the thing that limits you. But once you know you can pass a Class 1 or 2 or 3 medical, then you can figure out what your future is in aviation, right? Not everybody is behind a yoke in aviation. Plenty of people have wrenches, plenty of people are doing the business side. There's lots of jobs out there. So just because you're thinking, I want to be an airline pilot, well, as the years go by, maybe you become a CFI, maybe you become an A&P mechanic. I think there are lots of great jobs out there for young people of any diversity. I mean, aviation needs more diversity. It needs more women in it. It needs more people of color in it. It needs diversity. It can't be just a bunch of white old dudes going around flying. After my mom passed away, I told myself I really wanted to learn how to fly, and what was I waiting for? Because my turn is going to come up one day. So I got into aviation. I got myself my private pilot's license back in the early 90s, actually here at Lawrenceville, and I started like everybody else in a 152 and flew some in a 172, and then after I got my private, I got my tail dragger endorsement, and I got my complex endorsement, so I flew an Aero. I was lucky enough to be able to take my dad up before my dad passed away. So, like I said, this is the tough thing. When people that you love are alive, spend time with them. So after getting my private, I did some night flying, and back in the early 90s, when I had my license, you could fly right over Ted Turner Field at night, dip the wing, and show all your passengers the lit up baseball field. So flying over the city at night was like the super cool thing to do, to take your friends and family up. And did that for a while and flew for a couple of years before I just kind of transitioned out of it. And my dad at one point went, "Hey, why did you stop flying?" And then I started going, "Wow, it just got really expensive." And I think I kind of lost my mission. And once you lost your mission and your drive, then you always ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? Then my son was born. My son got a little older. He started getting into the flight simulator. And at one point in time, I was like, well, you need to come down and do a discovery flight. And he went up and did a discovery flight, and he had a really great time. So at that point in time, I was like, okay, why don't we go to flight school and have you start lessons in a 152? You know, I mean, I think every pilot, almost every pilot that's ever flown a plane has been in a 152, unless you've been at a flight school where they have a bunch of Cherokees. But everybody gets started in a 152. He started flying. I got myself current again. I hadn't flown in over 2 decades. So it was over 2 decades since I've flown. I went up with a CFI called Bruce Dance. I mean, I thought he's like the best CFI in the world for me. The second time I went up was with Bruce Dance. We were up here in the pattern, and he was like, do this, do that, do this, do that. And I just did exactly what he said, and we kept going around the pattern, and then he started dialing it back to see, you know, what can you do now without me telling you? And he just started dialing it back and dialing it back. And he just gave me a lot of confidence. And I felt like after just the second flight up after 20 years, I felt just a lot of confidence, because Bruce turned around and looked at my son and went, your dad must have had a great flight instructor, because he's really doing a great job. And he just gave me a lot of confidence to get myself current again. And then after I got myself current, and then my son was showing the desire that he wanted to, you know, go into aviation for a career, we started looking around for an airplane, because we were like, renting an airplane's expensive. Of course, buying an airplane, I'm not sure that's any cheaper than renting an airplane. So for you folks out there that are thinking that might be cheaper, you know, when you rent an airplane, you get to walk away, you get to go home. If something breaks, they have to fix it. You don't have to hanger it, you don't have to tie it down somewhere, you don't have to change the oil. There's a lot of benefits for being a renter. I'm not advocating going buy an airplane because it's cheaper, but if you're excited and you've got the passion and you have the ability to do it, you know, consider it, look at it.